It's Friday evening, and I know people want to get home to their families and loved ones, so I will be mercifully brief. I want to associate myself with the remarks of Senator Coleman and lend my voice to thank those that worked so hard on this legislation, including my friends and colleagues, Senator Coleman, Representative Fox, the co-chairs, Representative Rabimbis, my House fellow ranking member, the vice chairs, Senator Doyle, Representative Ritter, attorneys that spent enormous amounts of time on this, Attorney Michael Cronin, Attorney Bill O'Shea, Senator Len Fasano, who spent days and days and days taking the bill that came out of the Judiciary Committee and then bringing people around the table to really hone it and make it the very best bill that we could cobble together. Judge Carroll, Judge Solomon, members of the judicial branch, we don't take this task lightly at all because they are a separate and equal branch of government. And they had to buy into the concept that the system was broke and needed to be fixed. And the advocates on both sides, those guardians ad litem that felt very strongly that the system worked, and in very many areas of our state, it does work. And there are attorneys who just do these jobs for the best interest of the kids. But as Senator Coleman indicated, we had a public hearing that went from 10 in the morning till midnight. And when you think that the members of the public spoke on average for about 5 minutes apiece, you can imagine how many people came and testified that there were real problems. That in some areas of the state it was almost incestuous, and that there was self-dealing, and bills were generated in the tens of thousands of dollars. And people lost their homes, their retirement accounts, college funds. And how at the end of the day can the system that does that to people be working towards the best interests of children? It cannot. Because fundamentally what we're talking about is the children. And it should not be a system that has evolved in some areas into a cottage industry to generate huge amounts of funds without any check or balance, without any oversight whatsoever. We heard testimony from dozens of people that in these contentious matters where they were fighting over custody and other issues related to their children, the question was, did they look at the judge in those cases as God? And they said no. You know who was God in that case? The guardian ad litem. In fact, just this week, I was contacted by an individual who wishes to remain anonymous. His son was involved in a divorce, and lo and behold, unbeknownst to his son, his wife had been previously married and divorced. Amazing as that sounds. But when it was brought to their attention, it was also brought to their attention that the guardian ad litem in that case, that person's law partner had represented that woman in the previous divorce. That is a clear conflict of interest. Yet somehow that attorney was acting as the guardian ad litem. And people were too afraid to call that individual on that huge conflict of interest. One case, two cases, three cases. At some point, if there is testimony from 10 in the morning to midnight, you know something's wrong. Now, we have a saying in this circle, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I know there's going to be people that leave here this evening saying, well, it really doesn't do that much. It does a lot, in my humble opinion. Because we're going from a fairly unfettered, unregulated almost Wild West situation where we are trusting individuals to act honestly and appropriately, to a new world where there will be constructs and oversight and checks and balances. And has been stated earlier today, unfortunately, given that contentious debate over Judge O'Lear, and one can debate whether one was voting in the House for or against her on her own merits or as a way to articulate displeasure with the entire guardian ad litem situation. But I am confident that between that and what we're doing here this evening, that the judicial branch gets it. And that every judge out there gets it. And whether the new judges we vote on, either today or next week, recent renominations, I believe that each and every judge out there understands that when it comes to matters regarding guardians ad litem, or even attorneys for the minor child, that the light of day is now coming down, and that these matters have caught the attention of the legislative branch in a huge way. And as I stated in the Judiciary Committee, I state on the floor here, I view this as a first step. We're not just going to send these reforms out there and then leave the issue. We will revisit this a year or 2 years from now and see which one of these measures is working wonderfully well, which is working moderately well, and which may need to be shored up substantially. There is nothing more precious to a parent than the welfare of their children. And in a state that prides itself for being progressive in so many areas, we are quickly coming to a point, I believe, where we may need to take a step back and readdress how we address all of these family matters in our judicial system. Representative David Barham, friend and colleague whom I have huge respect for, who does family law, observed when we were voting on the bill as a member of our Judiciary Committee, you know, when I'm in the courthouse and there's nowhere to sit with my client, and the hallways are elbow to elbow, and you don't know when you're going to have time to get into the court or not because everybody's milling around, and there's not sufficient places to even gather one's thoughts, where the system is set up to be adversarial from the start, I look over to the criminal court system, where there's all sorts of diversionary programs, where there's all sorts of resources, and I wonder, what is the priority of the state of Connecticut? Representative Barham, you are correct. I think it's high time in the years to come that we examine the entire family law, family section of the judicial branch, find out what resources they need, find out what experts they need, and make the financial commitment, just like we did on the previous bill regarding early childhood education. And recognize that if we pay no attention to these families that are crumbling, that has a huge societal impact. Not only on the moms and dads, but on the kids. On the kids. And we owe it to those kids to set up a system that will allow families to resolve their differences in as peaceful and non-confrontational manner as humanly possible. And at the end of the day, if we can round that corner, and other states are doing this now, If we can round that corner, then years to come, we will be very thankful that we did that. And we as a state will prosper because of that investment. So, at the risk that I have not thanked some people for chiming in on this, and also I want to thank Senator McKinney for offering his insights regarding these matters as well. But I do believe this is substantial. And last but not least, and I said it in the Judiciary Committee and I'll say it again now, Representative Minnie Gonzalez sometimes took a little bit of heat regarding this, but took the time to meet with advocates for change, took the time to go to courthouses and sit there and observe firsthand what was going on, and has never let go of this issue. And she deserves huge amounts of credit for helping lead this challenge and producing real reform regarding the guardian ad litem system. For these reasons, Madam President, I am quite pleased and honored to support this amendment, which becomes the bill, and urge the entire circle to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you remark?